What's up guys, it's Spicy Orange, and I got an interesting topic for today. And that is, who would win between Katsumi and Hanayama if they had a rematch in the current day? For those who don't know, these guys have actually fought before in the Maximum tournament, and after a reread, I gotta say, probably one of the best fights in the series. But both have performed some new feats after this, and I was very curious how both would perform if they had another scrap. So for the first portion of the video, I'll go over their first fight during the Maximum tournament. Secondly, I'll go over some of their newer feats and any new techniques that they have showcased or improved upon. And finally, I'm going to go over how I think their new fight would go down, and who would actually win. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, at chapter 238 of Grappler Baki, Katsumi and Hanayama face off, with Hanayama landing a flip kick, immediately dropping Katsumi at the very start of the match. But of course, Hanayama, with his Yakuza chivalry, he allows Katsumi to get back up. They start again, and Hanayama throws a punch, and even though Katsumi blocks, Hanayama powers through it and sends him flying. He follows up with an uppercut, and Katsumi uses a kicking pincer block to try and stop it. Unfortunately, Hanayama punches through it and makes Katsumi keel over in pain. At this point, the chivalry subsides, and Hanayama gives him another body shot, making him vomit. Luckily, as Hanayama goes for a kick, Katsumi was able to dodge and grab onto him. Hanayama tries hitting him, but Katsumi is in a position where the strength of the blows are halved. Katsumi is then able to flip him over his shoulder and runs away. He waits 10 seconds and dodges Hanayama's blows in order to recover and counterattack, which he does successfully by using his solar plexus as footing to dash to his shoulders, kneeing him in the face, and dropping him with an elbow to the face. Hanayama eventually gets back up and starts striking, but Katsumi is able to dodge and counterattack, dazing Hanayama with an elbow to the temple. Katsumi then hits him with a quadruple median line strike, which heavily injures him, but Hanayama was able to grab his leg and burst it with his grip. With Hanayama stumbling over after the attack, Katsumi patches up his leg, and they have a punch-out. Katsumi starts landing multiple strikes, but is floored again by Hanayama's punch. Hanayama then punches him twice, sending him flying into the wooden barrier. After getting a support boost from other Shinshinkai members, Katsumi is able to spin kick Hanayama in the mouth, dropping him. Katsumi then performs the Mach Punch, a move he was initially going to use on Yujiro, which is a punch that utilizes the acceleration of 8 points at the same time to deliver a punch that surpasses the speed of sound and breaks the sound barrier. He hits Hanayama multiple times as he tries counterattacking. Eventually Hanayama turns around and uses his back to take the punch head on. The match is called and Katsumi is announced the winner. Although he won, he admits that Hanayama had at least 3 chances to finish him off. So for Katsumi to win once, he had to lose 3 times. Now with that out of the way, let's go over some feats they've performed and how much they've improved since then. Starting off with Katsumi. In Son of Ogre, after a lesson from Kakukaya, Katsumi started practicing imagination training to achieve having multiple joints in his limbs in order to improve his Mach Punch. Once he learns this new technique, Kaku says he can go as fast as he wants. He eventually is able to perform the same egg-cracking feat Kaku demonstrated, and even took it a step further, loosening his whole body, utilizing the Bodhisattva fist, and imagining his new joints. His technique was complete, and when he uses it, he shatters all of the windows on his floor of the Shinshinkai building. Even Baki was able to hear it from across town. After attaining a level of mastery of his new technique, he faces Pickle and was able to blitz him with 5 consecutive strikes to his vital points as Pickle goes in for a charge. He lands a few more shots on him until he's kicked away. Pickle at first sees Katsumi as someone to play with, but as Katsumi gets ready to use his new technique, Pickle then sees him as prey, considering him a formidable opponent. Katsumi was able to counterattack Pickle's punch with the true Mach Fist. This blow, which reminded Pickle of getting hit by the tail swing of a T-Rex, creates a massive shockwave and causes Pickle so much pain he drops to his knees. Katsumi then lands 2 more strikes on him, but unfortunately this technique does have its limitations, as Katsumi's hands and foot are destroyed by coming into contact with the aerial wall. Using his final attack, the hitless blow, he sends Pickle flying. Unfortunately, his arm is completely destroyed. The fight ends with Pickle seeing him as a worthy opponent and takes his destroyed arm. In Bakido 2018, Katsumi is given Retsu's arm to replace the one he lost against Pickle, and becomes instantly used to it. His first match with his new arm, history's strongest Sekiwashi, Shishimaru, had it not been for his injuries, he could have become the Yokozuna long ago. Not to mention, he and the Yokozuna himself are the only people to throw around the massive Uzeki Kyoge. Going back to Katsumi, he was able to advance his imagination-based joint training to the point his skeletal structure no longer has joints, but instead his entire skeletal structure was made into a whip. After taking a beating from Shishimaru, Katsumi runs away for 10 seconds to recover, something he did before in his match with Hanayama. He lands a mock kick on him, which literally knocks his soul out of his body, only for Katsumi to kick him in the thigh to wake him up. After dodging multiple hits, he lands a mock kick on his stomach, causing him great pain. Before Shishimaru could land another hit, Retsu's arm moves on its own, striking his chin and knocking him out. We learn that Katsumi is possessed and can now use Chinese Kempo. With his arm moving on its own, he blocks more of Shishimaru's strikes and prevents himself from getting grappled. He then lands a flying kick to his face with all his weight, making him reel back. Switching back to a karate stance, Katsumi hits him with a 5-strike barrage, and as he dodges more attacks from Shishimaru, he's able to land another barrage. Resorting to a bit of a dirty tactic, he crushes Shishimaru's balls to get him off of him, then hits him in the chin with a soccer kick, making him drop on all fours. Before landing the final blow, he stops his low kick short of his face and walks out of the ring, leaving Shishimaru as the winner. But had he followed through with the kick, he could have killed or at the very least gravely injured him. And at this point, this is pretty much all we have for Katsumi. So let's move on to Hanayama. In Son of Ogre, Hanayama was able to match grip strength with Pickle, and even broke the knife they were both holding. This makes Pickle happy, and he punches Hanayama away. Hanayama was able to get back up soon after, and they begin having a shoving match, which reminds Pickle of fighting a Triceratops, and even comments that Hanayama might be stronger than that. He's then able to push Pickle back until they stop, matching each other's strength. Pickle becomes happy and wants him to use his full strength. Unfortunately, Hanayama ends the fight when Baki shows up, so we didn't really get to see them throw down. In Baki-Do, Hanayama lands a punch on Yujiro, and was able to give him a nosebleed, which doesn't sound like much, but if you know Yujiro, this is quite a feat. Next we have him facing off against Musashi, with Hanayama landing a punch on him, sending him flying. He picks him up and goes for a gut punch, only to be intercepted by Musashi's sword. But despite having the sword in his fist, his blow was still able to shake his internal organs. Even with the sword in his hand, he lands another punch, sending him flying yet again. Musashi eventually recovers, and Hanayama follows up with another punch, with Musashi grabbing the sword still in his fist, which fails to cut his arm. While dodging his punches, he slashes Hanayama, and was perplexed as his slash failed to cut his torso, leaving no bones severed. He then states what Hanayama has is fearsome, and cannot allow himself to be hit again, following up with more slashes to his back. Hanayama, refusing to go down, challenges Musashi to a grip match, and overpowers him with one hand. Musashi even references his grip match with Pickle, who he was able to stalemate, meaning Hanayama should be at this point stronger than Pickle. Using the Iron Claw technique, Hanayama pins Musashi down by his face. Musashi comments that his grip strength was strong enough to crush his skull. In order to avoid that, he lets off an explosion, and slashes Hanayama in the stomach. The fight eventually ends in Hanayama's defeat, as he's cut multiple times and turns his back. In Baki-Do 2018, Hanayama faces off against Shachihoko, the #1 Megashira. As soon as the match starts, Hanayama one-shots him with a single punch, shocking both Baki and Katsumi, with Katsumi saying his hitting resolve won out against the Rikishi's resolve to be hit. Hanayama allows Shachihoko to get up and continue the fight, taking their stances. Before the fight continues, we learn that 4 years ago, Hanayama was able to flip a former Uzeki one-handed. This Uzeki was able to fight on par with the Yokozuna of that time, and the Yokozuna himself states his might is imprinted on his body and won't fade, meaning he's just as strong as he was in his prime. The only reason Hanayama wasn't asked to compete in sumo was because of his appearance, but if he took his talents into sumo, he most likely would have become a Yokozuna. Their fight progresses with Shachihoko pushing Hanayama back, and he starts hitting him with a barrage of herets, which of course he tanks. Then we see Shachihoko, standing ready to be hit again, and Hanayama follows up with a punch, which greatly staggers him. He then drops him with an uppercut, making him black out long enough to redo his hair, and even pull out a cigarette. And with that, Hanayama wins his match. And that's where we are currently with these guys. So with all that out of the way, if they were to fight again, who would come out on top? I think, overall, I would give this to Katsumi more often than not. And here's my reasoning. These guys have fought before, and have watched each other fight multiple times, so it stands to reason they know what they are both capable of. The problem for Hanayama, however, is he hasn't changed his fighting style. He throws these massive but slow blows on his opponents, basically knocking them out at the beginning of the match, and then just waits there to give them time to get back up. And if they get back up, he'll eventually follow up with a few more. However, Katsumi isn't going to just stand there and just watch Hanayama land these blows, which would more than likely knock him out. I say that because Hanayama is definitely the stronger of the two, as we've seen him make Yujiro bleed, as well as flooring Musashi multiple times with his strikes. So I think if he lands a punch on Katsumi, it's a one and done. But it's a good thing I give the speed edge to Katsumi. I think the best way to judge their speed is during the Pickle arc, as we see Hanayama get blitzed by Pickle's punch, and Katsumi was able to dodge and even counterattack a more serious Pickle's attacks. So I think Katsumi should be able to dodge Hanayama's attacks well enough to deliver multiple counterattacks and wear him down, which would definitely take a while as Hanayama is quite the sturdy fighter. It would be kinda similar to how Musashi started blitzing Hanayama and slashing him only for him to turn his back and accept defeat. But instead of slashes, Katsumi would hit him with multiple mock punches and kicks, which were effective enough to literally knock the soul out of Shishimaru. Not to mention the many techniques he knows on top of that, as well as having Retsu's arm that can also move on its own apparently. So I think Katsumi has plenty of options to take down Hanayama, and I'd have to give the win to him. But Hanayama fans, don't be too mad, cause I think if Hanayama lands one of these on Katsumi, he'd one-shot him. Also, if Katsumi wanted to be stupid and challenge Hanayama to a fist fight like he did in the Maximum tournament, then I'd give the fight to Hanayama mid to high diff. But I think Katsumi at this point knows well enough to not do that if he's trying to win. So with everything they've shown, I'd give the overall win to Katsumi. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know down in the comments who you think would win if they were to fight again. I'd love to see what you guys think. By the way, I'm currently a part of the Omni-Lantern Corps, a group of fantastic content creators. Links to their channels will be in the description for you guys to check them out. And yeah, that's gonna do it for now, and again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.